Okay, welcome to my second video. In this video, I'm going to be telling you about one of the philosophies that have influenced my life the most. It's called existentialism, and I want to kick it off with a video. It's a clip from one of my favorite movies growing up, and I didn't know it when I first watched it, but there was something about it that I really enjoyed that kind of it cut pretty deep. And I think that, I know now that it was this, it was existential philosophy kind of manifested in this video format. Anyway, I'm just gonna play it for you. It's short.
Who am I, Kylie?
Who, how? What now?
Why a fox? Why not a horse or a beetle or a bald eagle? I'm saying this more as like existentialism, you know? Who am I? And how can a fox ever be happy without you'll forgive the expression, a chicken in its teeth?
I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds illegal.
Here, put this bandit hat on. Maybe you're a medium. Take it off for a minute. And don't wear it around the house. And so it begins.
Okay, so in the movie, well, I'll explain the movie after I talk about what existentialism is. So, like, at a fundamental level, you have to think what makes us unique as human beings, like what differentiates us from like any other creature. And a lot of existential philosophers would say that what makes humans unique, what makes them special, is we have this freedom to sort of choose what identities are important to us. So, unlike any other creature that's kind of has this fated destiny, like an animal is going to survive and reproduce. They're programmed to act a certain way and be a certain way. They have an identity as a dog, as a cat, as a bug. They just do bug things or animal things, right? But for humans, we kind of give ourselves these identities, these jobs. You could be like a janitor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a firefighter. And then like they're not programmed into our being, but we create them. And then slowly over time, whatever identity that you choose, you start to take on this meaning from it. Like you could become a father, and then you could take pride in being a good father by like taking responsibility over the kids, like making sure that everything's kind of taken care of in the household. So there are all these different identities to choose from, and what makes humans unique, which is what a lot of these philosophers say, is like what makes humans unique is that we have this freedom, this innate freedom to choose. And that's actually really exciting from my perspective. I'm like, oh yeah, our life is not really, we're not forced to be any one thing, you know and when you acknowledge that freedom that humans have, it's very liberating, and it makes you feel alive. And that's what existential philosophers, they kind of push you and insist that it's important that we preserve the thing that makes us unique as humans and exercise that freedom well. Always remember that we're free to act and choose what is meaningful, is what identities are important, and then what meaning we derive from those identities. So like, let me give you an example. Okay, so let's say you have a student, like let's say you're in college and one of your friends is like studying, and like it's a Friday night, you wanna go out, and your friend's like, no, I have to study. And at that moment, that person, a lot of existential philosophers they'd be like, this kid who's studying, he's living in bad faith because one, he's not acknowledging the freedom that he has to, as a human, to choose what's important to him. So right now he has two identities, one, competing identities. He's a student, where his obligations and responsibilities as a student is to work hard so that he could get good grades and do whatever else he wants to do later in life. And two, the other identity is he's not only a student, but he's also a friend, right? But here, when the two identities compete, he's saying that, well, his identity as a student is more important than his identity as a friend to these guys. So the reason he's living in bad faith is because he's not acknowledging that freedom he has to choose to go out and be a good friend. He's like, I have to do this. But what would be more appropriate would be like to say, you know, my studying this exam is really important to me. It's more important than going out right now. And I'm choosing, like, you acknowledging that you have this choice, this freedom, and being like, no, I'm choosing to stay here because I value my studies more. So that would be living in good faith, right? But, I mean, let me give you another example of why this is more important. That was a kind of like a silly, trivial situation, right? But I remember reading this book. It's called like Eichmann in Jerusalem. It's about one of the officers that was in charge of a lot of what happened, like the atrocities that happened during Nazi Germany, and he's in trial, and this high-ranking officer that was in charge of sending a lot of Jewish people to extermination camps, and I guess he tries to argue that he didn't have a choice. He's like, it was my role. I was doing my obligations as an officer, taking orders. But like, what you have to know is that, sure, his identity as an officer was important, but he also has another identity, which is as a human being, to have a sort of decency, and like he valued his identity as an officer more than every other identity he had to his fellow people, to humanity. So he was not living in good faith because, I mean, he's kind of trying to make it seem and minimize the choice that we have. All right. I pulled up ChatGPT because I'm just gonna ask. And your freedom and the autonomy, like never kind of minimizing the freedom that we have as humans to choose our path forward, or choose what identities that we want to adopt and make meaningful to us. The thing that differentiates us from any other creature. Yeah, so you got such a wide range of philosophers who believe in the tenets of existentialism. Um, you have people like Kierkegaard who's a pretty devout Christian. You got Nietzsche who criticized Christianity greatly, and you have Sartre, Camus, all these people who kind of agreed with these central tenets. And I think, like, at least when I think about why this is so important in a day-to-day basis, it's like, for me, I'm sure other people have experienced this, but when you grow up, you have so many people telling you who you are and like what you're capable of. Like for me, they'd be like, oh, they meet you and then they kind of make a quick impression of you, and they don't know everything you've been through, but they kind of see a slice of your life and generalize, make a judgment about who you are, and they kind of reduce you down to what they think you are. Maybe it's not mean in a malicious way, but it's definitely limiting you. And so every time they interact with you, they're gonna kind of treat you like, oh, this is who you are. This is who you are. Everyone's gonna. I think there are so many people who, at least in my life, like teachers, coaches, all sorts of family members, they look at you and they have an idea of what you are. And in existentialism, it kind of insists that no, you aren't this one thing. Like, you could actually choose what identity you are, and to kind of accept the identities that are just put on you. That's like not living. You're not exercising that unique freedom and aspect of being human that you have. And it's like all the people who didn't stand up during Nazi Germany, and like kind of, they were told, like the officers who, they were told what their identity was, and they kind of accepted it. Like, it's so easy to go through life just accepting what other people say you are. But existentialism is like, tells you no, you really, the thing that makes us human, the thing that makes us great, divine almost, is that we get to have this freedom to choose who we become in this life. All right. All right, let's go point by point. I kind of mentioned a lot of this stuff in like just kind of like my rant, but okay, freedom and authenticity. Yeah, so it pushes you, this kind of philosophy pushes you to live authentically, to kind of take responsibility over what you choose to do in your life. You're like, no, I'm choosing to do this. Whatever I'm doing, I'm not saying I have to do it. No one's forcing me to do it. I'm doing it because I'm choosing to do it. I have freedom. And that's what it means to live authentically in good faith. And it makes it so that you don't really conform to societal norms and expectations on you. So like, if you take Nazi Germany again as an example, you know, you don't really follow uh, what the government is telling you to do, especially when you know it's wrong. And like, kind of always going back to, oh, who am I? I am this person that has freedom to choose who I want to be. That 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 like, being able to remember and keep it in the forefront of your mind that, like, who you are is a person who has freedom to choose who you want to become. That that will, I feel like, be conducive to living a like a honest, authentic life, and you kind of won't be, I guess, pushed around by people who want to tell you who you are. The meaningful life. Mm, okay, so a lot of existential philosophy is okay because you could choose your own identity, and with each identity there's a sort of meaning. A lot of existential philosophers believe like Nietzsche, that you could kind of create meaning because you could create identities. Like, he had this idea of an Ubermensch. It's like a superhuman, and that would advance civilization. And um, I think, I mean, you don't have to inherently think that life is meaningless, like it says in this, but because like you could think of Kierkegaard, who was able to reconcile his Christian faith with existentialism, where yeah, that's like a bigger discussion that we'll talk about next time. But um, this is exciting stuff for me, so I'll make that into another video. All right, dealing with adversity. Existentialism also addresses suffering, anxiety, and inevitability of death. Okay, so by actually going through this exercise of, oh, asking yourself, who am I? I mean, some people think it's absolutely useless, but I would argue and that it's really helpful, because when you come to a crossroads where you have to make it, you have this dilemma about a choice you want to make. It helps you clarify, like, instead of being kind of, it helps you clarify what decision you should make, because you think back, what identities are most important to you, what is most meaningful for you. So, I mean, Sartre gives a good example where there's this man who he's a family man, like he's a father, and he's also a son to his mother, and his mother recently gets sick, and in order to be a good son, he wants to stay with his mother and nurse her, but at the same time, there's a war that broke out, and he's being called to serve for his country. So he also cares about his identity as a patriot, as a citizen. So what does he do? Does he stay home with his mother, or does he go out and fight for his country? So ultimately, his decision is going to be predicated on what is most important to him. And by going through this exercise of asking yourself, like, what is most important? Like, what identity is most me, most core to who I am? And how do I prioritize being a father versus being a patriot, being a nurse, being all these sorts of things? You have so many identities, but just clarifying and kind of sorting it out. That's what existentialism kind of forces you to do, because it comes with acknowledging the fact that you are a free human being with autonomy and choice over who you're becoming. So personal growth is the next one. Yeah, so kind of looking at your own life and assessing, doing an assessment, appraisal of what are my choices telling me is my most important identity, and what's most meaningful to me. And lastly, appreciation of life is like, this life, it's pretty short, and we have so many different things we can pursue, so many different identities that can be ours and be important to us. But what are the ones that we really want to adopt? What do we want? What kind of person do we want to become? What identities do we want to take on with our limited life? And also, it's very liberating when you grow up, and for many people, they don't have very supportive people around them, and they have people telling them, "Oh, this is who you are," and kind of programming in their head that they're fated for a miserable life, that they're no good at anything, that they can't become what they want to become. But this philosophy is so liberating, because it's like you could become anything you want. I mean, and then for other people who are more anxious, this could actually be a little paralyzing, because you're like, I just want someone to tell me who I am, like what my identity is, and then I'll do it. Like, I just want my parents to tell me that I'm going to be a lawyer, and then I want to spend all my time doing that. And you have people on both ends of the extreme, but I think that overall, existentialism forces you to kind of reckon with the reality of who you are, and the choices and responsibility you have over choosing what you're becoming, and in this life, and what you're prioritizing. All right. So I'm just going to end it with another scene from this movie. It's Mr. Fantastic Fox, or Fantastic Mr. Fox. Such a good movie.
All right, let's start planning. Who knows shorthand? Great. Linda, Lucha, you got some dry paper? Here we go. Mole, Talpa Europea, what do you got?
I can see in the dark?
That's incredible. We can use that, Linda.
Got it.
Rabbit, Oroctologous cuniculus. I'm fast. You bet you are, Linda.
Got it.
Beaver, castor fiber.
I can chew through wood.
Amazing, Linda.
Got it.
Badger, Melis.
Demolitions expert.
What? Since when?
Explosions, flames, burning things.
Demolitions expert. Okay, Linda.
Got it.
Weasel, Mastella Navarra. Stop yelling! All right. Ha! Woohoo! All right, Ash, you get these little kids organized and put together some kind of case.
Okay. So obviously the animals in the movie, they're wild animals, and but they're throughout the movie, like in the beginning, they all have these jobs. Like the badger's like I don't know, he has like an office job, and he's the mayor, I mean. And then uh Fox is trying to Mr. Fox, he's trying to become this person that everyone wants. He wants people want him to become, take up a job, a stable job, and become like a writer for a newspaper. But he absolutely hates it. And he's like, now he at the end of the movie, when it's getting everything's it's like a resolution, um the conflict, because these farmers are trying to drive all these animals out of their home. What Mr. Fox does is he kind of reminds people who, like like these wild animals, who they are as wild animals, like their truest identity. Oh, this bunny is fast, so you should use that skill as being fast. That's what makes you unique as an animal. Like um and that's we're going to use that. And then everyone kind of is kind of brought back to their core identity. And um I don't know, it's just really a neat way to interweave existentialism into a movie. And Wes Anderson, the director, he studied philosophy in college, so it's actually no surprise that he was able to do this so successfully. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little, I mean, I've been making these videos about what is conducive to a good life, and I think that this video is definitely a deeper theme. It's talking more about principles rather than like little habits. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was a tougher one to kind of flesh out, and like, forgive me for kind of rambling, but thank you for watching, and just stick with me, because I'm gonna kind of give you a bigger picture with all these videos of my conception of a good life, and hopefully people can learn from it, and hopefully you enjoyed it. All right, see ya.